With the recent release of the Monster Manual 2024, we now have a full picture of the new rules for D&D. And while many people are sticking with the 2014 rules to finish out their campaigns, or because they just don't want to switch over to the 2024 rules, we've been looking through the new books overall for the past couple months, percolating on a lot of things. And between you and me, there's a couple things that the 2024 rules, I think, objectively do better than 2014.
And so, whether you're moving to the 2024 rules and want to know what the coolest rules are that are in this book, or if you're sticking with 2014 and looking for what to steal from the 2024 rules and implement into your game, we're going to go over 5 options that you should definitely be paying attention to in your games. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get rolling.
Okay, so the first rule is one that we've actually kind of derided in the past because it's a popular house rule and it's official with the new DMG. And this is all potions are consumed as a bonus action.
It's funny, you're going to say, but Dungeon Dudes, in all of your videos for the last 10 years, you have said that you don't like using the bonus action potion rule and you don't use it at your table. And that's true. But now it's official and we've kind of been looking at it a little bit closer and we're warming up to it. And the main reason we're warming up to it is that in our big revelation, the we were wrong moment, is that a
No
lot of
one in our group ever plays a healer, and so we kind of like slam healing potions like I drink coffee.
Yeah, but the hard part is that, like, it's such a choice to, like, use your turn to have a healing potion and then do nothing else on your turn, and it feels bad. And on the turns that, like, I would have to take a healing potion because I'm at 2 hit points, I'm like, guess I don't get to do anything on my turn.
Yeah.
And so we've actually found that as a player, the option of doing something on your turn and having a healing potion is actually a very rewarding experience. And so we're warming up to this idea, and now it's official.
I just think that, like, especially like things like Baldur's Gate 3 and the popularity of this house rule have just kind of canonized it. And it just you are right. It feels better for players. So healing's been buffed in general in 2024, and I do think that a lot of people were probably using the bonus action potion rule anyways with the 2014 rules. So I think that this is just one that's very easy to adopt and worth doing.
And a lot of you out there are probably sitting there saying, I've already been using this rule for years. This isn't new. And that's kind of the point. But also, there are a lot of people who are like, well, I play by the rules, or they don't really homebrew a lot or house rule a lot. And now we're saying, well, it's official. So everybody should feel welcome to adapt this into their game.
Yeah.
The next one is one of the only class changes that we recommend stealing from the 2024 rules, and one that Monty and I have both kind of been house ruling at our own tables for years, and that is the Warlock patron spells. In 2014, they gave you a list of spells for your Warlock patron that you had the option of selecting, which didn't feel good because Warlocks have so few spells anyway.
Yeah, and this was a real incongruency within the 2014 rules because clerics always got their domain spells, paladins always got their oath spells. There were druid subclasses that always got those prepared, and then we started to see sorcerer subclasses that also got expanded spell lists that were just automatically granted to you. So this started to look really, really incongruous by the end of the 2014 sort of publishing cycle. And I think this is one of those changes that is absolutely worth retroactively applying. Once again, just like the bonus action house rule, assuming that you weren't house ruling it already, just giving warlocks all their patron spells as spells known.
It makes the players feel better. Honestly, the first player that I ever had at my table that was like, I want to play a warlock, and the moment they realized they didn't get their spells, they were
Yeah.
like, what? And I was just like, just take them.
Yeah.
Like, just have them all.
Yeah, this is another one that I think this is an objectively better improvement, and I think most people would agree this is the way it always should have been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were already playing this way, which means
Yeah.
this is a good rules change, and the 2014 one was not a good idea.
I think I would probably say, is this the least controversial class change in the 2014
If
to
anybody
2024
out there,
transition?
if anybody out there argues with us that the 2014 version was better,
Of this
Of
specific
this
Warlock
specific
change.
Warlock
Yeah.
change, I don't know how you argue that point.
Yeah.
I don't. And if you're gonna try, I'm probably not gonna engage with you anyway, so, uh, good luck.
Okay. So the next rule is one that I feel like we had to explain on the channel till we were blue in the face, and people still didn't get it. Like, this rule confuses people. People never get it right. And in the 2024 rules, the rule is actually described the way it works and it makes sense. And that is the only one spell with a spell slot per turn rule, as it is known in 2024, which confusingly before was the whole thing about casting spells as a bonus action and things like that.
If you cast a spell as a bonus action, then you can only use your action to cast a spell that is a cantrip that requires it was a convoluted,
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah. People interpreted it to mean that you could only cast one leveled spell per turn. It was often called the only one spell with the spell slot per turn rule erroneously, because that was a simpler way of explaining it to new players to grasp it. But now I think it's much clearer.
Now, this one is a little bit more nuanced than our first two rules. There are a lot of arguments out there that the way that this spell now interacts with certain features is worse than in 2014, and there are certain instances where it is better. Some people are upset that now this doesn't interact with Action Surge anymore. You can't
Yeah.
dip into Fighter to cast two spells in one turn. However,
I
that's
mean,
not...
even Action Surge was errata. Like, it was changed so that you can't cast spells with Action
Yeah,
Surge,
yeah.
period.
But even all of that aside, if there's a lot of things that now this interacts differently with that you might be like, oh, I can't do X, Y, or Z anymore. But I think in general, the wording of this rule is objectively better. The way that it is worded in 2024 is clear, it is concise, it is easy to understand, it is hard to get wrong at your table, as opposed to the 2014 rule that everybody kept getting wrong at their table.
Yeah, and I mean, it is interesting that this got hit from so many sides, because this rule got changed, Quicken Spell got changed, Action Surge got changed. So there was a general clamping down of any of the features that seemed to imply that you would be able to cast more than one spell with a spell slot per turn were kind of really axed in 2024. And so even if you are implementing this rule kind of does still impact a few other things with some other class features, but in general, it's a clearer way, I think, of explaining things. It does get interesting because it's been pointed out that monsters in the 2024 rules generally don't have spell slots anymore. They kind of all cast their spells without slots. So monsters inherently get around this rule, which is a weird permutation.
I also, what I really like about the new rule is it was always a little confusing. You and I had so many discussions at the table, and we still didn't quite land on it until recently, I think, on whether my sorcerer could quicken a spell from their staff, or even like quicken a spell and then use a staff.
Yeah.
And it was always like, yes, sometimes, no, sometimes, I'm not sure. This very clearly, if I'm using a staff, I'm not using a spell slot. So there is actually play here that you can use magic items
Mm-hmm.
to cast spells and then continue to cast another spell.
Yes, you can, but it depends on what method you're using to cast the other spell. Like, as an example, once again, in 2024, if you use your action to cast a spell using a magic item, and then you Action Surge no longer lets you take the magic action.
Yeah.
So that is turned off there. Similarly, there's some other restrictions on Quicken Spell as well that kind of prevent certain shenanigans. So you have to be aware of those things. In contrast, if you cast a spell using a staff with your action and then want a Misty Step,
Yeah.
that works. Or there's a lot of other features that let you cast Misty Step without using a spell slot, so you can Fireball and Misty Step in the same turn. Unfortunately, this is where this rule does kind of start to fall apart, because it's like, this rule is better, but there's still a lot of confusing corner cases with it.
Yeah.
And it kind of leads me back to two things that I want to say are both the two unpopular next steps. One next step would be to simply get rid of this rule entirely and blow the doors off on letting just people cast spells with their bonus action and their main action and just not even have this restriction at all. And I would be curious to know, with the changes to Action Surge and Quicken Spell, if just getting rid of this rule entirely would have worked.
I mean, is it really that bad if somebody Misty Steps the same turn that they Fireball?
No,
Not
it's
really.
not. No, it isn't. And it's probably not even that bad for a cleric to throw down a spiritual weapon in the same turn they cast Flame Strike.
Yeah.
Right? It's just really, the problem, I think, comes in the form of things like Action Surge and Quicken Spell
Which have been changed.
which have been changed, but still, like, what's not okay is double Fireball.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing that
We're trying to avoid double Fireball, but there are so many, like, the bonus action spells are usually not intrusive enough to warrant, but this is just speculation. Either way, I think this rule is better written now.
I mean, the other one, which even now, Mike Merles, one of the designers of 5th edition, no longer at Wizards of the Coast for various reasons. But Mike Merles even came out and said he wished that they never put the bonus action in the game at all.
I mean, I've heard you talk about this.
Yeah.
I like the bonus action.
Yeah.
But...
no, I personally, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I think the game would be a lot better without the bonus action, and just go back and fix, like, obviously that doesn't mean get rid of all the things that are a bonus action to use. It just means redesign everything so that bonus actions just, it is like, I've seen the confusion that players have around the bonus action. It's not named well.
Yeah.
I feel like 4th edition still got it right. Like, in 4th edition, it was called your minor action.
Yeah.
And you had your main action, your minor action, and your move action. And I mean, and that's where Pathfinder also had, like, it has the 3 action economy. But yeah, it's just part of those one confusing things that's still, unfortunately, in the rules.
I mean, we've played a lot of other systems recently, and so many of them do have, like, well, it's interesting because so many of them will have, like Alien RPG had the fast action and the slow action.
Yeah.
Which is really, the fast action is your bonus action, the slow action is your main action. However, the fast action was also things like moving.
No, I know, and I think it does speak to that whole thing of, like, now we're getting on a tangent about action economies, which maybe we'll discuss on in another video or for patrons.
Separate.
But, like, man, it is a fascinating topic, though.
Yeah.
All of that to say that the only one spell slot with a spell slot per turn rule is probably worth integrating, and even if you're still using the 2014 rules.
Another rule change that we absolutely love in 2024 is that all feats, aside from origin feats, but all of the general feats are now half-feats.
Love this.
Yeah.
Love this change.
In 2014, it was always hard to choose between an ability score upgrade, a feat that you really wanted that didn't give you any improvement to your ability score, or a feat that was, like, kind of good, but gave you a +1 in a really important ability score. And that was kind of torture to try to choose between those 3 options. And I feel like it's pretty smooth now, because I am almost always, the choice really now is, like, I'm almost always going to go for a feat, because I think feats are more fun, and they all are going to give me a +1 to an ability score. And if I'm really starving, then I can take the +2. But I think feats are now just easier to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to take a cool feat.
I think that we saw in 2014, giving players a bonus feat at first level was very common.
Yeah.
That was a very common house rule, and I think the origin feats thing works really nicely in that regard. I definitely do prefer a version of it where players can just choose whatever origin feat they like. I think that if I was going to implement this rule into 2014, I would probably just steal all of the 2024 feats. Most of them are similar enough to their 2014 versions. I think that if you are passionate about Great Weapon Master and Sharpshooter, then I would, and potentially 2014 Lucky, I think that I would make those two the exceptions. I would not put an ability score boost on the 2014 versions of those 2 feats.
I mean, not to get into it too much, but I think the 2024 Great Weapon Master is better, but
I think it's more balanced. I think that the 2024 Sharpshooter is sad in
yeah,
contrast. I still have a gripe with the fact that there aren't more feats for more. Like, I just think that there should have been a power attack feat. Like, there should just, like, power attack has been a feat in D&D since 3rd edition. Where's power attack? I don't know why we don't have that as a feat. Maybe we should just make that feat.
uh, we're probably going to put out more
People already
books.
have, but I mean,
Let's make it
yeah,
again.
yeah,
But I think that all feats being half feats is just so smooth.
yeah.
And if you can use the 2024 feats and add the plus ones onto
You've
everything,
got the guidance there that this is a pretty easy house rule to integrate into your game.
yeah.
Yeah.
The last option that we're going to talk about comes out of the DMG, and we've been using it at our tables, and it works. And that is the encounter building rules. I think that in 2014, the encounter building rules were complicated a little bit more, and they often were underpowered. I was constantly throwing deadly encounters
Oh yeah.
players,
Yeah.
and they were still like, oh, why wasn't that deadly? Why wasn't that even a problem for them? And you've been throwing uh like moderate to hard encounters at us using the new encounter building rules, and they've been a challenge.
Yeah. So for like, to give a perspective on this, our player characters in our Drakenheim campaign are still using the 2014 rules completely. We're using the 2014 spells, feats, characters, everything like that. But what I have done in some of our games recently is I have used the 2024 encounter building rules. At first, when we first got them, I was using those encounter building rules with 2014 monsters. But then I've also done some encounters where I've used 2024 encounter building rules with 2024 monsters up against 2014 player characters. And I love it. It works really, really well.
It's
Um,
scary
it
as
is
a
scary.
player.
I mean, uh, maybe it's because the 2024 angels are just scary
And maybe it's
and
because one of your players
is
is
vulnerable to
vulnerable to radiant
radiant
damage.
damage. But regardless of that, I think that we've gone on the record before saying that challenge rating is broken in 2014, that the encounter building rules are broken and not good. And the 2024 are the 2024 rules a silver bullet, and are they perfect? No. Are they better than the 2014 rules?
Objectively, yes.
Yeah, pretty much objectively, yes. And one of the things that is kind of weird about the 2024 rules is that challenge rating has now become this vestigial thing that is still on a monster, but almost meaningless.
Yeah, it's a number that gives you a general idea of like basically the out of 1 to 30 how difficult is this monster, and really I think the only place to compare it to is other monsters.
Yes, exactly.
It's
And
like what do you rate the difficulty of this monster on a scale of
yeah,
1 to 30? That's
because
all that CR
now with
is.
the new encounter building rules, a challenge rating, when you match the player character's challenge rating to their level,
Mhm.
you get an easy encounter almost every time. Like, one monster of equal challenge rating to the party's level is not a threat,
Yeah.
basically. And so you always get a more of a budget than that. It gets rid of all the multiplication involved with the whole thing, where if you used multiple monsters, you had to multiply their XP values in this really confusing way. And that actually is the biggest change over in the whole thing, is that getting rid of that multiplication factor and just using the XP values of the monster means that essentially you have a budget that is very clear that you get to use. And that, combined with generally the adjustments to monsters in the 2024 monster manual, which in general monsters have more hit points and they hit harder, I think has yielded a better balance. And so I think that even if you are still using the 2014 rules for player characters, I think that you can, as a DM, the 2024 monster manual might actually still be worth buying for the stat blocks.
And using the new encounter building
Yeah,
rules.
and using the new encounter building rules. Um, because again, like it's just more monsters, and I think it's in most cases it's better mechanical rules for the monsters. Like despite some of the things that we said about the monster manual is a book of like a lot of the lore being stripped out of it, the monster design is just
It's pretty good.
it's just better.
It's
It's just
pretty
better.
good.
Like it, yeah, and that's kind of the thing. So I think that these, if I was just narrowing it down to trying to like, I think that there's a lot of other things in the 2024 rules that people can be like, yeah, I don't like this change. I don't like this change, but I'm reasonably confident that it,
These options are hard to argue with. Like, these are good.
these ones are the ones where you just line by line comparison. Is this rule better? I think that these ones are the ones that they're not only are they better, they're also easy to implement without messing up anything in
Yeah,
2014.
you can grab these. You can pop them into your
Yeah,
game. You're not going to mess up your game by doing so. And for some of these rules, you're probably already doing them in your game anyway. So
yeah.
just keep doing it. Uh, I think that there might be other rules in the 2024 book that are objectively better than 2014. And that's where you come in because I want to hear about it.
I mean, and there's a lot of rules that are subjectively better or subjectively worse, like where it gets down to a matter of opinion on it.
Like
But
Rangers.
yeah, I guess maybe instead of objectively better, I would say like that the general consensus is that this is an improvement,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
when we get into subjectively better, I have a lot of
Yeah,
stuff in the 2024 rules that I think is subjectively better. Even things that were nerfed, I think are subjectively better,
yeah.
um, overall for the game. But I want to hear your opinions out there. What do you think is better in the 2024 rules? Be it certain monsters, certain player character options, certain feats, spells. What do you think's just gotten the improvement it deserved and is now something that if you're playing 2014 rules still, what are you grabbing? What are you stealing
Yeah.
from this and putting it into your game?
And I mean that's always been the thing of it is that like we're not Puritans by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to our role playing games. Like we steal rules from different systems all the time
Yeah,
to use
we've
in
been
our
a
games. Like
Frankenstein. Like
yeah,
we say we play 5e 2014 for our Drakenheim campaign, but meanwhile, you can see us using like 4e rules 3.5. You can see us stealing stuff from Powered by the
yeah.
Apocalypse.
I feel like you and I especially use like the influence of more rules like games and Powered by the Apocalypse games is definitely like part like baked into like some of the philosophy that we use,
Yeah.
right? And like broadly speaking than that, like we've talked about this many times that like the 2024 rules kind of touch on things like degrees of success and success at a cost in the DMG. They don't really build it out, and that but like those are still things from other systems that like you should absolutely bring into your 2014 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us in the comments below what rules, even if they're not from the 2024 books, I'd love to know what rules did you steal from other
Games, yeah.
systems, from other games? Because we do it all the time. We steal everything and then we just cram it into our tables, and
Yeah,
it's so
because like
fun.
no one's gonna like I mean that's the magic of role-playing games is like no one is going to police your table, right?
No,
Like
it's up
uh
to you at your table to police your table. You and the
yeah.
people at the table police your table. You decide what works for you, and that's kind of the joy of TTRPGs.
Yeah, and I do think that like you whenever you do implement a change, you got to ask like is this gonna I think there's an important point where you do have to ask the question like, is this making the experience better for us at the table?
Yeah,
Right? Like I do think that sometimes people can jump to things and be like, oh, I'm gonna add all these rules and it's gonna make the game better, and it doesn't. But I think that these ones are ones that I would say it's a pretty safe bet.
yeah,
Implementing these is
100%.
good is gonna do a better job, and could probably give some improvements to your game experience, even if you're using the 2014 rules. The videos that we create on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. We just upgraded our Patreon rewards on our channel a couple weeks ago, and we have had so much growth in our community, and we're so thankful to all of our patrons who have joined since this or upgraded their tiers to get some of our awesome new rewards, which include a monthly packet of some new rules that we're working on. We've been sharing a new packet called the Dungeon Dudes Eldritch Experiments, where we've been sampling some new subclasses for our apothecary class, for the sorcerer, some new esoteric theories for our apothecary class, and launching in just a couple weeks.
I'm going to be running an exclusive actual play with some new friends, and we are going to be sharing that actual play for our patrons. Um, we might release the first episode of a few of these stories on YouTube, but if you want to see us running some systems that aren't D&D, we just finished filming an Alien RPG
It was so cool.
few
I played a
episodes.
colonial marshal. I can't tell you if my character lived or died yet, but it was a lot of fun, and it was great for me to get on the other side of the screen and play a game.
So if you've always wanted to see Monty as a player and me as a game master, I have a lot of fun running other systems, and so I'm taking this opportunity to explore all the systems that I've wanted to try for years. And so patrons are going to get the option of watching these amazing new actual.
Is this just going to be Kelly and Monty play all the games by Free League? Is
A
that
lot of them are by
yeah, a
Free
lot of
League.
them are by Free
We're
League.
big fans of Free
Yeah,
League. We love Powered by the Apocalypse. We love the Year Zero
we love
system. We
Morkborg.
love Morkborg.
Although Powered by the Apocalypse isn't Free League.
No, but that is another one that you'll probably see.
Yeah.
I'm also currently interested. I might pick up Kids on Bikes. That one interests me a lot. There's a lot that interests me.
Yeah.
I picked up the Wild Sea recently, which I'm getting some imagination on that. Vason looks really cool.
We're gonna do 10 candles at some point.
Probably some
Yeah.
Morkborg, Pirate Borg,
Yeah.
Cyborg, all the Borgs.
And if you don't know, the reason why we're doing a lot of this on Patreon is because whenever we do a video that covers something that's not D&D, it gets about 1/10 of the views that our D&D content does. So if you enjoy us talking about stuff that's not D&D and want to see more of that, supporting that on Patreon is what allows us to justify doing that, because the non-D&D stuff just does not get the views that the D&D stuff does. It's just kind of the facts of the matter. And so Patreon has been a place where we've been able to explore content that's not D&D, because the platform gives us more ways to actually support that and make that viable for us to create that content.
And if you want to see us playing D&D, we do have an actual play series that is nearing its end, and it is quite the saga. And if you want to get in on that, you can check out all the episodes right up over here.
And we've got plenty more coverage on the 2024 rules right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time
In the dungeon.